The next book I want to mention might get me canceled. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Book Blabs. I'm Nat and I love to blab all things books. My last video I talked about my favorite reads of 2025. So now I'm going to flip the script and I'm going to talk about my least favorite reads of 2025. I'm going to try to keep this video shorter because one, I don't really like to be a hater, and this isn't really me like hating on the books, because some of these books that I picked might be your favorite books of 2025 or just in general, and that is 100% completely fine and completely respectable. I'm not doing this to hate. It's just to, kind of reflect my taste and kind of explain why I did not mesh or click with certain books. So that's why I want to keep it short. But also, two, my last video was on the longer side, so I just want to keep it well balanced so everybody's not watching super long videos all the time, because I know sometimes when I'm on my lunch break and I want to watch a YouTube video, I don't have time to watch a 45-minute video or whatever it is. So I'm going to try to keep this one short for those two reasons. But really quick, like I said before, if you loved these books or these are some of your favorite books or favorite authors, this is in no way hate towards you. This is not hate in general. This is just me explaining why I did not like certain books. I'm not hating on the authors. I'm not hating on the books. I love and respect everybody and the work that they put out. I understand how hard it is to write a book and how much care and love and dedication and work went to every single one of these books. And I acknowledge that. I just want to kind of, give my 2 cents on why I didn't personally enjoy these books that much. So, to start off this video, I would like to talk about Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I rated this book 2 stars. I just didn't really vibe with it too much. So this is kind of like a slice of life novel. We have 4 main characters that we kind of bounce between, which are I almost combined 2 names, Alice, Felix, Eileen, and Simon. And so this is just kind of like following them through their lives. They're on the younger side, and life is just catching up with them. It's happening to them, and it's about them being human and about making mistakes. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's, disagreements because there's some jealousy and, just things that make us to be like what we are, which is human. Everybody has flaws. I just had really conflicted feelings about this book because I found it a little bit boring at times, just a smidge, just because slice of life usually isn't my cup of tea. I'm a fantasy reader, so I love, action, and I love more plot, and so it's really hard for me sometimes to connect with slice of life because they are more character driven, and I found myself just not really connecting with these characters or really relating to them as much as I wanted to, or as much as like the author had intended. So I feel like this book didn't really hit for me because I didn't really care as much as I should have. And I don't know, because like you might read it and you might love it, you might really connect and really relate, but I just personally could not find anything that I could truly deeply care about or relate to. So I just found myself getting a little bit bored in the book. The second book I would like to talk about is Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Moss. I think it's M-A-S, Mass. I don't know. This book we read for one of my book clubs, and the book club ended up DNFing it, but I really struggle with DNFing. I wanted to see the book all the way through, and I know a lot of girlies love this on TikTok and on Book Talk, and it's very beloved, and that's why I felt almost guilty, and I wanted to see it out to the end. However, this book just did not mesh well with me. I love romantasy and I love fantasy. However, I feel like this book's pacing was very off. It felt very rushed and then very slow. There were a few plot holes or things that I think got addressed way too quickly. Lastly, they're building up all this suspense of like, why is this main character so powerful when she's supposedly supposed to be just some human that they just randomly found, but then they test her blood and she's supposedly more. And just given like context clues and the name of the novel, it is very obvious what the big reveal at the end is going to be. And so it just felt a little bit anticlimactic, if that makes sense. They had all this build up and you kind of knew where it was heading or knew what the peak was going to be. And so it's just a little bit of a letdown for me because I like to be like on the edge of my seat and I like to like be surprised with the reveal, and I feel like I just knew it the whole time given the context clues. It was a little bit too obvious. But it was still fun to read. It's just based on other fantasies that I've read, it was not my favorite. So I also gave that one 2 stars. The next book I want to talk about is Dead Fool's Advocate by Vivi Page. So for about a month and a half, I went through a phase where I really just wanted to read like Kindle Unlimited, shorter but like spicier books. I was kind of going through a slump, and I know that those kind of books that I don't really have to think about a lot can get me through my reading slump because they're easier to digest. However, I did not really connect with this one that much. So this one is about she is like a high class, really successful like attorney and lawyer, and the main male character is kind of like in the mafia. He's like a thug, and you know, he's in trouble with the law. So he ends up blackmailing her into representing him because he is in trouble and is going to go to prison or jail, and so he kind of coerces her into representing him, even though she does not want to. And so as this is going on, they kind of start hooking up, but it felt very insta-lovey and insta-lusty, and I'm not a huge fan of that. So yeah, that is one of the reasons why I just did not vibe with it too well. Next book I want to mention is His Little Red by Vivi Page as well. And I'm sorry, Vivi Page, I'm not a hater to you. I just did not connect with this book as very much as well. So this book is about I'm trying to remember. These people are trying to blackmail this girl's father into agreeing to their terms, or like I think they want money or something. So they end up kidnapping his daughter and then trying to use her as like leverage or hold her for ransom, basically. And the reason why it's called His Little Red is because it starts at a costume party and she's dressed up as Red Riding Hood and he is dressed up as the wolf. And so they kind of start flirting at the club because she doesn't know that he's there to kidnap her, and then he kidnaps her. And then, you know, they start lusting after each other even though she's being captured and held prisoner by this guy. So yeah, in my mind, it just, while I like Beauty and the Beast and Phantom of the Opera, which are like Stockholm syndrome things, this book just did not light that candle for me. I was like, it's a little insta-lusty, little insta-lovey, kind of rushed. So yeah, it was not my favorite, but it was short and spicy, so it did the job on that front. The next book I want to talk about is Secret of the Vampire by L.E. Wilson. So this book is book 2 in a series that I read last year, and I really liked the first one. just because it was like enemies to lovers, where she was a witch, he was a vampire, and like the vampires and the witches did not get along. It kind of gave me vibes of what's the spin-off show from the Vampire Diaries, the originals. It kind of gave those vibes where, you know, it's like they're in New Orleans. I don't even know if it's in New Orleans here. New Orleans, but in the originals, that's where it takes place. And so here it's kind of like small town, like you kind of get those vibes of like the swamp. So you kind of, it's like Louisiana, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, like all those vibes. So it's very similar, and I think that's why I like the first one. The second one, however, is still enemies to lovers because he is a witch and she is a vampire. It's kind of just repetitive of the first book. You know, we get similar problems. There's like, I don't know, I just did not vibe with it as much. I feel like it was almost unnecessary, but I don't know. You might really like it. It's just for me, I was like, I read the first one and the second one just was kind of very similarly paced. There was nothing like too original about it. So I was like, I really didn't need to read it. So I gave that one 2 stars as well. So I apologize. But the first one I had a lot of fun with. It was still on the cornier side. So you never know. The next book I want to mention might get me canceled. Okay, guys, please don't hate me. The next book I want to mention is The Secret History by Donna Tartt.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Okay, listen, Linda, listen. Don't start war. I really, really loved this book. The first half. Like, this book was beautifully started. So it was started in medias res. We have this like cohort of students that are together, and at the very beginning of the book, one of them is killed. And we don't know how and we don't know why, but it starts with that person's death. And then it backs up and it goes, the first half of the book is explaining how they got to that point and why that person is dead. And it is so interesting. However, halfway through the book, we get to that in medias res point and why the person has died. And then the second half of the book is where my interest started to go down. Honestly, I felt like the book lost focus. And I feel like, because it started unraveling, and I guess that was Donna Tartt's purpose, you know, because now we're talking about the repercussions of this cohort after that one person is killed. And so it is them kind of falling apart, and you see all the repercussions, like physically and mentally, and within their relationships. You see the strain in that friend group because this secret has to be kept, and you know, the lies that are being told and the things that are getting swept under the rug. So it gets very messy. And for me, I really don't like super messy books, and maybe that's why I didn't really like the second half, because I felt like it just really lost focus, and it wasn't as good. And so I found myself getting bored, and I felt like, whereas the first half of the book I was reading so fast, I really kind of lost interest. But overall, it wasn't like a horrible book. Like, I still recommend it to people who like those kind of books. I just don't really like messy books, and the second half is very much messy. You also deal with unreliable narrator. Do with that what you will. Please don't cancel me. I hope I've explained myself in a good enough way, because I know that book is very well loved. Yeah, I'm sorry. The next book I want to mention breaks my heart. It is If We Ever Meet Again by Ana Huang. This is her first book in the If Love series, and I gave this one 2 stars just because, slight spoiler warning, it is a romance book that does not have a happy ending. And I get it. There are some books where you're like, I want to be realistic. Not everybody gets a happy ending. However, when I'm reading romance, I don't want reality. I am reading romance to escape reality. So when I am hit with reality, I get so sad because I'm like, we just watched this whole thing flesh out, and then we don't even get a happily ever after. And for me, that broke my heart. I think I found out the second book is that same couple continued. I thought it was a bunch of interconnected standalones. I might be wrong because I haven't started the second book yet, but I'm hoping it's kind of like Magnolia Parks, where you have the same couple throughout multiple books. So maybe it's just messy and the whole series about that one couple. I don't know. I'll have to keep reading to find out. But the first book broke my heart. I was not expecting a non-happy ending. But 'tis life, I guess. The second to last book I want to mention is Promised in Blood by Sadie Kincaid. This is book 2 in the Broken Bloodlines series. Or maybe it's a duology because I don't think I saw a third book. However, book 1 I really enjoyed. I rated it 4 stars. I thought it was fun. I found it on TikTok and I was a little bit hesitant going into it, but it was definitely like a wide choose romance. So it was spicy. It was fun. It was funny. It had a very corny writing, but sometimes like that's what I live for. Book 2, however, I feel like just it wasn't as good. I found myself getting bored. I was even like skimming or skipping like the spicy scenes. It just got the pacing was just really off for me. Yeah, I feel like it was just not as good. I don't know if it was rushed or if the author was trying to go for more like deeper fantasy plot, because it's like, we have a bigger, badder enemy in this one, but I feel like it's just was too inconsistent for me, and so I kind of just lost focus, I lost interest, and I just didn't have as good a time as I did with the first book. So yeah, that one was 2 stars. On the bright side, I didn't give out any 1 stars this year, so I call that a win. My last book I would like to mention is My Dark Desire by L.J. Shen. I had really high hopes for this book, but I was disappointed at the end. So this book is about a couple where it starts with her trying to sneak into this man's, he's like very rich, very high power. She's trying to sneak into his mansion and steal a pendant that he owns, because the pendant, it's a part of a set, and she has one of the pendants, or she had one of the pendants, and I think her family sold it for money, and so it's the only piece that she has left of her. See, I don't even remember. One of her parents that she was close to. I think it was her dad. He passed away, and it belongs to him, and so it meant a lot to him, and so it means a lot to her, and so now she's trying to get it back, because it's kind of like a Cinderella moment. Once her dad dies, her stepmom and stepsisters kind of treat her like dirt, and they sell her belongings, and they make her like a maid. So she's trying to steal this back because that's the last piece she has of her dad. However, the man, he watched his father die as a child. And so this is introduced in like the very first chapter. So he's very traumatized. He's very grumpy. He's closed off. He does not touch people. He cannot physically feel flesh or he will get sick. And he also has a pendant because art was important to his dad. So he has this pendant because it meant a lot to his dad. Anyways, he catches her trying to steal, and they are playing a game that like requires strategy and wit, and she almost beats him, and so he's very intrigued because she's this mystery girl who is very witty, very smart, very intelligent, challenges him, but yeah. Anyways, he finds her identity and then hires her to be his maid. He basically buys her, and then it goes from there. In other words, I had really high hopes for this book because I heard really good things about it, and I thought it was like a darker romance of like a Cinderella retelling. However, I just feel like the pacing was off. Like I found myself getting bored. It was way too long. It was kind of repetitive. Like they had the same conversations over and over again, and I just feel like it could have been so much more, but it just kind of fell flat for me. Those are my least favorite reads of 2025. They were all rated 2 stars, so none of them were DNFs. But yeah, again, I just want to emphasize that I am not hating on these books whatsoever. So please let me know down below what some of your least favorite reads of 2025 were, or if you agree with any or disagree with any of my choices. I know Donna Tartt is going to be a hot button issue. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. I will see you next time. I love you. Bye.